Welcome to Film2Field Case Studies, where we sit down with players, coaches, and football professionals to break down the lessons, habits, and study processes that drive success on and off the field. In today's episode, we speak with head coach Bruce Fleming of Abington High School in Abington, Pennsylvania. Get to Fridays or Saturdays, and it's practice is over and all the kids have gone home. What is your process and routine for how you attack a film or how you look at it and how you watch it?
Um, so, being in coaching for almost this coming fall will be 22 years of coaching. And so my evolution of watching film has changed over time as things have changed. The medium has changed. Before it was as soon as the game was done, getting the SD card from the guy that videoed the game, or and then dropping it in to make a burn a DVD and waiting for the DVD tower to shoot out all the film to take it home and digest it to break it down and get ready for the following week. And same with scout film. From that to now where everything's in huddle, I look at film like soon as the game is over, all the players are gone. By the time I get home that night, the game is already uploaded into Huddle for me. Um, and then usually I just do a. Usually I'm still wired from the game, so I'm still up. I'll watch it for about maybe 20 minutes, just not really trying to digest it, just watching the game back. And then Saturdays, as I watch college football, I have my laptop in front of me, and that's when I really start to digest it, looking at offense, looking at special teams, looking at defense. And so my Saturdays is really spent on breaking down our Friday night film, finding things we did well, the things that we could have done better, and things that were just really bad, and finding those opportunities. Okay, what things can I touch on in our meetings with the players on how do we get better from it? And so now with the players, and like we were just mentioning offline, is that we really have to teach the players how to watch film. You really have to show them, okay, what are you looking at? Why we're looking at that particular thing, and we're not just looking for the big play that happened or the big catch, the big hit. No, we're looking for, okay, did I step the right way? Did I take if I'm an offensive line, did I take the correct bucket step on this particular play and to do those different things? So over time, what I used to do was, as I watched the film, and especially for my position group, if it was defensive line or defensive backs, um, I will cut out maybe 20 plays that I felt were important. We don't need to watch the entire film. They can watch the entire film on their own. I'm gonna take those, 15 to 20 plays, and I'm gonna annotate the film. I will drop in a box in here like, hey, where was our eyes at on this play? Like you saw where our eyes at because of our eyes in a bad position. We couldn't get into our drop the right way, or I'll do a voiceover in certain things, and then I'll send that to the players. And then by time when I did it in college, that's how I did it. And then by the time I met with the players, um, on a Monday, Sunday night or a Monday, their objective was they watched what I sent them, and they wrote down any questions they had based on the things that I talked about. And then from there, we just touch on the questions they had. I go back over to make sure they understood my comments that I had, and then we move on to the next film. That was college. I had more time. They had more time. They understood the requirements of watching film. High school players is a little bit different. You got work. You got a girlfriend that's occupying your time. Hey, I gotta scroll. I gotta scroll TikTok for at least a good, you you know, hour and a half or whatever, or Snapchat, whatever it might be. They're all gonna do those things. Mind you, I'm 45 years old. I do not own a Snapchat. I do not own TikTok. I only have Instagram just to watch my players on what they're doing
Yeah,
online.
you got to make sure.
Right. So that's how I am. So because I know that, and because of my years of coaching, and my assistant coaches all have families as well, I embrace technology. I don't require my coaches and players to come in on a Saturday morning. It's the old school method. Yeah, you get those final eyes on the guys again, whatever treatment they need to do, or a little light workout and watch film, and then we go
Hmm.
home. I'm like, no. I mean, my daughter's 19 now, but when she was younger, that was my time spent with her. A lot of my coaches have younger kids. That's the time you spend with your family. So I used to tell my coaches, hey, make sure you have make sure you have your breakdown of Friday night's film ready by Sunday. And so Sunday, the players knew, parents knew as well, because I have a master calendar I keep updated for my parents to know what's happening. And my players know, okay, position coaches will set a time for when they're going to do review Friday night's film on Sunday.
Okay.
So they have all day Sunday to make it work. So I tell my assistant coaches, hey, check with your position group, find out who's in church, who's not in church. What time? If you have a bunch of guys who are going to church, what time are they home after church to do it? And make sure they have it done. For my coaches and I, we have a group chat that we're all on, and as we watch film, we're sending things that we saw and everything else. So we're constantly dialoguing and communicating about those things, offensively, defensively, and then all together as a whole. And then I tell them, make sure you get your film review done. And it has worked for me the past 3 years of doing it that way. So that way it allows Mondays is JV games. I have coaches that go to the JV games. So watching film on Monday just for the varsity guys, yeah, it's great for them. But what about that JV kid that needs to understand that talking point that
Exactly.
help them get better? So
Hmm.
that's why we use Sunday. Because that requires everyone. My freshman practices with us as well, even though they play in freshman games, but they still sit in the meetings as well to learn and understand. Okay, in my position, this is what coach is looking for. This is what they need to do. This is how I attack this particular thing, and I go from there. So that's kind of been my evolution of how to watch film, and slowly started to teach the guys on what they're looking for. Um, and a lot of kids today, yeah, they don't watch football like we used to. They don't sit and watch NFL or college, or mainly college football. I tell a lot of guys, you can watch the NFL, but if you really want to emulate what's going to happen at the high school level, watch college football.
Hmm.
There's a lot of different rules in the NFL that do not apply at the high school level, and trying to emulate what you see in the NFL, you're going to get yourself a penalty called on you and so forth. So trying to teach those guys like, hey, this is the spin, and we have a requirement on our guys in huddle. You can monitor how much film a guy watches. We tell guys, hey, they need to get at least an hour in a week.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really basic, but like an hour a week is really okay. 15 minutes a day.
That's in between each game that you play on 2K. Come on now. You could do
Is
that. When you're waiting for the next play, you can get 15 minutes a day. So,
yeah. So putting those requirements and holding them to that standard of putting that time in. I've seen the growth in some of my guys, football IQ and understanding of different things as well.
thank you so much, Coach, for that. A lot of the same sentiments that you do. When I watch it on Friday nights, I was a fan. Like I just watched it and sound off. I'm usually laying in bed because I get home at like 10:30, 11. I'm just on my phone or my iPad and I'm just watching it through. No skips, no replays. I'm just watching it as a fan. Anything that jumps out to me, I would make a mental note or I would jot it down in a notepad. And then we get together on Saturdays as well, like whole group, and get together and go through the film. Now, when you all meet on those Sundays, is it whole group or do you break off into positional meetings and have your own style of doing that as well?
So the first year I did it, this was when COVID hit, so we couldn't meet in person when we finally started to be able to play again. So we had to figure out different ways. I did whole group first, and usually that whole group was maybe like a quick 10-15 minutes of me just talking to the guys about, okay, this is what happened Friday night, good or bad, whatever else. And then if some coaches were doing meetings right after our group meeting, then they'll break off into their inter meetings. But as time has evolved, um, that Sunday is pretty much all day Sunday. Position coaches have the opportunity to meet with their players.
That's a game changer. It's a
Yeah,
game changer.
so it's not like they're all waiting for 6 o'clock on a Sunday night to have this meeting. I just tell coaches like, hey, if you know you got a few guys in your position group that play another way, make sure that other position coach is not doing the meeting at the same time, so that the player can be in both meetings. And then we just go from there. So it's been helpful. Bit of accessing the technology that way, but it's also me being a head coach and me standing on top of my assistant coaches like, hey, make sure you're meeting with your guys, and if guys are not making the meeting, make note of it,
Yeah.
and address it in practice. That's a non-negotiable. That they have to make the meeting, or if they can't make the meeting because they have work or a family obligation, they have let you know, and they made arrangements to meet with you another time to review the film.
Copy.
Because the
Copy.
film is very important.
Yeah, I love it, and you can see it. I was able to see. I was able to watch your game against I'm on the western side of the state, so the eastern side of the state, you got some different names out here, but I believe it was Nashemi. I was able to watch that game, and I like to pick games, and I know this is a little bit different, but I like to pick games where teams lose, so you can see how they are, and when everything's not going their way, because we all can watch a blowout and say, "Hey, man, that team looks great. They know what they're doing. They look crisp and clean, and the competition has no chance to get them against them." But I really like to see games where kids lose so they can really get the film out as well. I've been even talking to some of my clients, and I'm like, "Hey, I love that game where you dominated that other player because you were just clearly better. But I want to see the ones where you got somebody who was equal or maybe be better to you, where you can
Yep.
fight." But that communication piece that you talked about through your players, your coaches, through the parents, the scheduling, the virtual text, the group chat, there's so many ways that technology can help us out. And I really appreciate you saying that. I know we got a little bit, couple of years on it, but it's nice to hear that I got somebody that the technology isn't going over your head and you're doing your thing. Okay.
I try my best with, like, there's some things where, hey, like AI is a new generation. Like the graphics thing, the kids love the graphic stuff that goes out now on Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. Just to put those things out there. I have an assistant coach who I coached when he was in high school, who's now my assistant coach with me. That shows the age there. So he handles all my graphics for me. Like I come up with some stuff, I show it to him, and he does something with his stuff, and he sends it back to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a lot better than what I. But I realize, okay, we're in a time where technology is at the hands of every single kid.
Yeah.
Every single cell phone is a mini computer that they can watch film, they can communicate, and they can send updates all at the same time in the same device. You don't have to do multiple devices. So why not use it? Why not use it to our advantage and embrace it? And there's some coaches that are my age and older who are like, nah, we got to meet every day. I'm like, all right, yeah, I get that, and that's great, but I've learned that I've lost assistant coaches because it burned them out.
Yeah.
Because hey, they miss time with their family, and hey, the best thing for a football coach is having a wife that understands it, that understands the amount of time that goes into it, the amount of time that you're going to dedicate to it. Understanding that, hey, you might have one, two, or three kids of your own, but now you just adopted another 45 kids because your husband is now a coach and
And not
spending
a
that.
key word in there is understand. They don't always agree with it, but they do
Yes,
understand it.
exactly.
That's
Um,
great.
and over time, my wife she has understood over time as I became a head coach, and the more I developed as a head coach, she understood that, okay, certain times of the year, okay, this is what he's doing. As long as I keep the family calendar updated, she knows where I'm at, what's happening, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We have one in the kitchen. It's a whiteboard, but I also
Mhm.
have one on our phones that we share as well, so that we all know where everybody is going during the day. If there's another class, if there's a little league game, if there's a practice.
Yep.
I have a lot more time now since I stepped away from actually coaching, but it's still a full calendar with all we got to do. But
Oh
coach,
yeah.
I really appreciated the piece in there that you talked about. That you talked about, like, your affinity to one side of the football. I know you said you were a defensive coordinator, and then you were a head coach, and then you went to college and came back. What side of the ball, and well, this is kind of a loaded question. It's like two parts. What side of the ball are you more engaged with? What position do you like to go with? And what are some of those traits that you look for on the film to tell you, like, hey, this is a kid that I can either work with, or this is a kid that needs a lot of development, or this is a superstar?
So earlier, when I first started coaching back in 2004, I was on the offensive side of the ball. So I was on the offensive side of the ball from 2004 to about 2009. Then I flipped to defense. At my second high school I was working at, I was an assistant defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. And the head coach I worked with, um, I look at him as a mentor, Coach E.J. Smith. He's retired now from Norristown High School, but he played at Shippensburg. He was a wide receiver in his playing days. Even a shot at the NFL back in the 80s. And then when he came back to start coaching, it was strictly defense.
Yeah.
And he said that what helped him make him a better defensive coach was spending that time on offense, because you knew what things you're trying to do to attack and break down the defense. So now as a defensive coach, I know those weaknesses and how do I hide it? How do I, um, uh, you know, coach up the guys to keep those things, those holes kind of covered up. So I took that same approach as becoming a teacher and teaching. Coaching is just teaching, and how you break it in. You being a teacher, it's I do, we do, and now you do.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's on the board, on the whiteboard, chalkboard, or in film. Okay, I'm showing you how you do this particular thing. All right, now I'm practicing. Okay, let's work together in our indie time to work on these different things. Or okay, you want some extra practice, extra time after practice. Okay, let's make that happen. Or you want some time before practice start. Okay, let's get to it in pre-practice. Let's knock out these things. Now it's your time to do it in the game, or in that inside run, or in that 7-on-7. So in my time, I spent in 22 years, I would say I'm roughly maybe 11 and 11 on
Okay.
offense and defense. Um, so like I look at offense as a defensive guy now. So you asked the question, like, how do I pick which side? I look at the makeup of my coaching staff. So I know I have the experience to work on either side. So as I hire coaches that fit the main criteria. Are you a teacher? Are you able to explain and teach technique to the players in multiple different ways? Do you believe in the standards that I have for the program to articulate those to your position group? And then I find that best fit. And then once I have that best fit, I see, okay, where's there a need for me to be at? And so this is going into my third year at Abington. My first 2 years, I ran the offense, but my second year, I brought in guys that I coached who are now with it. They know me, that know how I operate, that know how I do things, and now they're just learning my offense. And so now I'm just slowly starting to take a step back on offense, and now I'm becoming more of that CEO, because I have a defensive staff that has tons of experience, 20 something years experience in a defensive coordinator at the college level, the high school level, a linebacker coach who's a co-DC who's played in college level, coached at the college level as well. So having that experience on the defensive side, all I needed for them is to tell me, okay, this is what we're doing, coach. This is the terminology we're using. And as long as I understand the terminology, I can just look at it and understand what's happening, because I know that trust level and their experience level. Offensive side, now I have the guys there. I pull back. So now I sit in Before it was working with quarterbacks to develop our quarterbacks, so we didn't have one, and I couldn't find a quarterback coach. Now I have a quarterback coach, so I'm teaching him, and because he's a young guy, teaching him the nuances of coaching that position. So now I sit back and watch. I help out my wide receiver coach when the group is too big to do certain things. Sometimes I might take the tight ends separately because tight ends is a weird position because you got to do things in the pass game and in the blocking scheme. And sometimes you might need a little bit more individual time. So now my expertise is stretching to the areas where if a coach family emergency came up, he can't make practice that day. All right, I got that position group. I'll take it. So that's the luxury of spending so much time on both sides of the ball. You kind of build up that wheelhouse of drills and things to do and terminology to really teach guys at all times. So it made my life easier. So I don't have to stress like, okay, I don't know that side of the ball. Okay, I can't really. I can coach it, but am I really helping the guys?
Right.
Because I'm not well versed in it. But yeah, I've done that, and sometimes in the past I used to look at a position group and say, okay, which position I don't really know that well, and I'm gonna spend all off season getting better at it.
Ooh.
And so I've done that at times as well.
That's powerful, coach. That commitment to becoming a lifelong learner. And then going to each side of the ball, you had to have those moments of like, hey, I really don't know what's going on, especially when it talks about tight ends. The more I study football, I'm starting to learn like tight end is the most difficult position to coach because you got no receiver play, you got no offensive line play, you got no pass protections, and all the rest. Coach, you hit on a couple of points where you had players that came back around you that are now coaching underneath of you. Do you have any stories of a player that you almost missed, or there was a player that somebody doubted or didn't know that they were that good, and the film or their production or their character made them explode into I won't even say a superstar, a vital role player on the field?
Um, I mean, out of the two coaches that I have with me right now, one's the linebacker coach and the other one's my running backs coach. Um, when they played for me, the one that's a linebacker coach, he was a offensive lineman because he was too slow to be a running back, and he was a linebacker. But we taught him the nuances of the game to understand because hey, he wasn't going to be that sideline to sideline linebacker because he just didn't have the foot speed for it, but he understood it mentally because of film study and us talking about it that made him a very good football player that allowed him to get a chance to play at the college level. And the same with the one that's my running backs coach. He was a 185-pound offensive lineman his high school career, and now he's the most detailed running backs coach that I've had in a long time. And he's very persistent in those guys, and he's very hard on that running back group. And I tell those guys, hey, you can't complain to me because I coached him. He know how I get. He actually says I'm kind of soft on you guys because I'm not like how I was when he was a player. So I got to listen to what he's saying. Those two guys have been great. I look at stories of guys who, when I coached linebackers at Norristown, I always try to identify a kid that was a freshman or sophomore that was maybe undersized to be a defensive lineman, but never played his hand out of the dirt before in his life. And I say, you know what, that's going to be my project to turn him into a linebacker by the time he graduated. And I was lucky enough to have two linebackers that I took from being linemen and turned them into, contributors on a championship team, and contributors to be, captains as seniors when they got to that point. So I love those opportunities where someone might doubt a kid and it might look at like, oh, there's no way he'll ever get there. I like, no, give it a chance. Sometimes it's taking the kid to the side and finding things out about them and then using that information to really help them develop. And my younger coaches, they see me do that now because they always see me asking questions about what do the kids do outside of school. And Right now, we're developing a backup quarterback, and he never really played the position before, but he's a boxer and plays tennis. So, understanding, okay, so my understanding of playing tennis and how it requires hip rotation on hitting backhands and you know your follow through and throwing a jab as a boxer, translating that for him to understand those same things happen as a quarterback.
Right.
And in just a few weeks of him understanding that and constantly working it with my quarterbacks coach and me talking with him, we're seeing development and growth. And I tell my guys, this is why you always ask your guys what they do outside of school, outside of playing football, because you can find a way to take what they've done and take for granted and may not think it translates to football and make it translate, and now they find a connection that draws them even closer into it.
And being a quarterback, man, you got to be prepared for some punches and hits back there and be able to stand strong. So
Yep.
that's a great connection piece between a sport that maybe people think is unrelated, but there's that hip rotation, the follow
Mhm.
through on the punch, being able to deal with adversity and being able to stand strong and say like, "Hey, I still got to lead this team as well." So, Coach, we're coming to the end of this conversation, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I got two more questions for you. The first one is you hinted on the football education pieces that yourself and your position coaches really harp on, especially your running backs coach. What are some of those foundational football IQ either lessons or wins that you've like cultivated over your career or philosophies that you cultivated over your career that you start with? I'm thinking winter or spring workouts, day one. What do you start with a fresh new student or a fresh new player where he's never seen the game before or he's only seen it in clips? Where do you start to build his foundation of offensive or just football 101?
Um, I think, and it's ironic you bring that up because going into my third year at Abington has, it was down for a few years, rotation of different coaches. So like this current senior class, they I'm the most consistent they've had because they had a previous coach as their freshman year and they've been with me for 3 years and everyone else behind it. They've only known me and my style.
Okay.
What my coaching staff says. So for those guys is really evaluating. So like when I use terminology, I'm just listening to see that the guys understand what I'm saying. And then I look at their facial expression. And if their facial expression, most teenage kids can't hide facial expressions. It says it all on about how much they know or don't know. Or they might say they do know, like, all right, come draw it up. And so what we did this off season, we lived 3 days a week. Different teams, different winter teams take precedence in the weight room over us. So some days I delayed when we went into the weight room. So we had chalk talk as an entire team before we went into the weight room. Everyone that wasn't playing a winter sport. And usually that chalk talk was either, okay, I'll tell guys, okay, what does it mean to apex if you're a linebacker? And some guy will say, oh, I'm out here. Like, well, what does out here mean? Like, apex has certain dimensions to it. Like, what does it
Mhm.
mean? And so actually breaking that down to those guys and then showing it on film. Like, okay, when we say, okay, now you need to apex, they can look at film and say, okay, all right, this is what you mean, coach. This is how I'm apexing between the slot and the end man on the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Or telling guys, okay, understanding techniques. You know, some youth football don't teach techniques anymore. They just tell you to line up.
Hmm.
And so now you get them and say, okay, I need you in a 3 tech, or I need you in a 4-eye. And they're like, well, what's that?
Yep.
That's all right. Let's break it down. Let's draw it up. And there's some aspects of being old school. So during those chalk talks, they had to bring a notebook.
Hmm.
They had to write it down. They had to, you know, constantly write it over and over again. And I'll tell these guys, hey, but I might just quiz you and let you know. And so now we're at a point where they understand that everything that's being said to them from a coach is something they need to is a building block on something else. And we have our standards and core values in our program. And I told our guys, like, hey, I made it my coach made it a graphic, so nice and fancy for him. I say, hey, save this in your photos so you can always look at it and memorize it. Because any coach can, at any point in time that you're with us, we're going to ask you, okay, what does the H in ghost tough mean
Okay.
in our standard? And they have to be able to say what it is. I tell them, like, say, being a part of this program is not just about showing up on a Friday night or coming to practice. It's a lifestyle that we have to live. It's football. Football at any high school across the country is always the sport that generates the most looks, generates the most, um, people come.
Publicity.
It sets the tone for the entire school year on what
This,
school
mhm.
year is going to look like.
And you can see what a community looks like when the football team is doing well, man. It still has a great impact.
And so I explained to them, like, if we can live the standards and core values at everything that we do in the classroom, in the community, and within the program, and someone ask us because they see us talk about it all the time. Hey, what does it mean to be ghost tough? They able to say it and they be able to see it like, oh, now I understand what you mean. So it's you have to be intentional to really develop the football IQ of your team. Um, Not just the X's and O's and terminology and techniques of the football field, but the culture of your program.
Yeah.
Because once we all know as coaches, a good program is really run by the players, and they just mimic and echo the vision of the coaching staff. And if you build it up to that point where they're just echoing and hammering in on everyone else and to follow those same standards and the culture that's been established and holding guys accountable for it, great things are going to happen. And I tell my guys now that, yes, the wins haven't come for us these first 2 years that I've been here, but a lot of things are different behind the scenes that people don't have no idea about.
Yeah.
And like only people that know about these behind the scenes stuff are those who are really close to us in our program. And they see it and they are our biggest cheerleaders outside telling people, hey, give it time. It's happening. It's coming. And you know, some people believe that it's easy to change things around right away, but football is one of those things. Not one guy can change it. You need 11 guys that's on the same page that understands what they need to do. And one of our alumni came back and popped in on us. Craig Reynolds, who in the NFL, he's a Abington great and still lives in the community when he's back in town visiting his dad. And I tell him he always pops by whenever he feels like it. I don't hold him back because he bleeds the maroon and white of
Yeah.
Abington football. And he told those guys like, hey, his junior into his senior year, he had no offers, had no different things. We haven't had success in the playoffs, but we realized that okay, we need to understand what our role is to make something happen. In his senior year, they went on a great playoff run. And he said that can happen with you guys, but you guys got to understand can't be you could be selfish in wanting great things, but you got to be selfless to understand what my role is and how my role is going to help the overall team.
That's
And
beautiful.
since then, the amount of guys that stay after our practice is done because Craig said, "Hey, y'all should be getting extra work in on your own. You don't need the coaches to do this." It's I'm like, great, I love it.
I've been telling you guys to do this for 2 years.
Right. I
That
like, but it
was the
works out.
mom and dad effect, man. You get a mom can tell you something one way, or dad is screaming something at you, but then when mom says it in a nice way, you're gonna listen. But coach, you hit on so many pieces there. Number one, that the impact beyond the wins and losses, because we had a team that we went on a deep playoff run. We were one game away from the championships in our areas, and it was a disappointment because we had so much talent, and behind the scenes though, that team's grade point average went from like a 1.7 average to it was like 2.8. And then we had a couple kids that were cresting above 3.4, 3.5. I had a kid that was a 3.8. He's playing receiver at Slippery Rock right now. So the behind the scenes stuff of kids being in the community. We had students that were volunteering at to tutor. We had students that were just doing better overall with their families, and they didn't have any referrals or anything in school. So like it was behind the scenes stuff that was making it a lot better. And then your point on the old school getting on the board with a notebook, my students or my players would used to get mad at me because I used to walk around with my binder that had my physical playbook in it. And
Hmm.
then whenever we would get ready for meetings, they would see it and I would pull it up because I had it all PowerPointed and it would have
Yep.
nice diagrams and everything. And that's what I was using to teach from. But they would be like, Coach, why don't you just print that out and give it to us on Huddle or something like that? And I'm like, no, there's something to be said for you guys taking your own personal notes. So I gave them all notebooks. I would pass out pencils and pens. And I'm like, no, this is okay. This is how we talk football. This is our procedures. This is how we line up. This is what our huddle looks like. Here's some signals that we got for 2 point. Here's what our concepts are, with their name, what they're tagged. Write them all down. Write this concept in here. Yes, we call it, and then I built the IQ on top of it because I wanted them to understand that, football, the game is the game. So even though we call this, I don't know, my past plays were NFL teams. So even though we call this Cardinals, understand that that's the curl flat concept. So whenever you see it and recognize it in football, or you go to another team where they call that concept, you kind of got an understanding. My receiver that plays for Slippery Rock, he put up a clip for their spring ball game. And whenever when he was in high school, one of his favorite plays for me was the slot fade.
Yep.
And whenever I seen the clip, he said he posted it on his Instagram, and I said, I know that wasn't, I know that wasn't I'll give it another name because I don't want to get it out there, but
Right.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna call it the Vikings. I know that wasn't Vikings check up there. He was like, yeah, I'm still beating boys on that. So it's nice to see that they're starting to see everything come full circle with football and the education and the character building and being what does it mean to be a part of this program. The game is romantic, but there's so much more stuff around it that makes the story great, and that's what I appreciate learning from you today, Coach. I'm starting a closing tradition on this video series, the Film2Field case studies, and that is to ask you during your career, and this can be recent or this can be something that you picked up earlier in your career. What is a book that you read that had some type of impact on your life? You can see behind me, me and my family are very avid readers.
Yep.
So one thing I always know is that somebody that has success, they usually learned it from somebody. Or if you have a struggle or a challenge that you're going through, somebody already has tried to overcome it and then they put it in a book. And that's what, and I love learning stories, and that's how I teach myself is through stories. So are there any books that you can uh, recommend to me that helped you out during your career or just during your life? It doesn't have to be connected to football.
Because I don't live in Abington, so my commute is about 30 minutes to get to school. So I'm a big audiobook guy.
Yeah.
So I listen to tons of audiobooks. And I, besides I'm a history teacher as well as a special ed teacher, so I listen to history stuff. But I listen to a lot of things that are may not seem like it's related to football, but you can find nuances in it. And so the most recent one I listened to was The Five Dysfunctions of a Team.
One more time, Coach.
The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, by Patrick Lencioni, Lencioni. And basically, the book talks about there's always when a team is having struggles, corporate, sports, or anything, it's one of these five dysfunctions are always there,
Okay.
or multiple ones are there, and so with those dysfunctions, you're able to identify what it is, try to address it, and build from it. So like the first level is like a pyramid. So it works as a pyramid. So that bottom layer is about trust.
Okay.
And trust is a big thing in team sports as well as in any other parts of your work life. You have to build trust. And so the way I took that trust aspect of it and look at it within my team is like, okay, trust is built on you being in the weight room inspired me today because now I know if I'm going to fail, I have someone there that's going to pick me up and talk me through to get through that lift the next time my rep is up, or it's on the practice field and me trusting that you know your responsibility and I don't need to do nothing else. I just need to do my own job.
I can see that you did your film study this week. Yep.
All right. So
I love it.
if a team has trust, you see it on the field because
Hmm.
everyone's doing their responsibility, not worried about no one else, and things are clicking at a very high level.
Because I know you're going to be where I need you to be. I love it. Go ahead.
And so in each level of it, kind of goes from there. Like I wrote it down. I don't want to mess up the different levels of it, but I want to
Okay.
make sure I'm gonna get it for you so you exactly have it. So the first level is trust. The second level is conflict, fear of conflict, fear of
Cool.
speaking up against someone when you know they're wrong, or fear of saying something because you don't come from it. That happens in all team sports. That happens in all work relationships and corporate jobs. You don't want to um you don't
Ruffle
want to say
feathers.
something. Yeah, you don't want to rough things up because you're afraid of that conflict. You know what? No, a good team has conflict. A good team is willing to call someone out when you know something needs to be changed. That's that trust level. Now
Yeah.
you have that fear of fighting through that conflict, and the next level is commitment. Your level of commitment. Hey, I don't need to speak on commitment. We all know as football coaches, football is a thing that hey, you gotta be committed to this. This is the hardest sport to do it on a fly by night type of thing. And then the next level as you work your way to the top is acknowledgement of accountability, being accountable to your teammate, being accountable to your coaches, your family, all those different things. And then the top one is results, and that's basically being able to uh, celebrate the results that you get.
But yeah, I
Uh,
mean, and that's beautiful because you can't have the results without levels 1 through 4. So
yep.
yeah, so I like that they put that one on top as well because the pyramid, I mean, that trust level, because anything that happens after that, it comes from that. You have to understand that it comes from that place of trust.
Hmm.
Even though I'm calling my friend out because he didn't watch his film, or we call cover two and you're in the deep third. So now I don't have that trust with you, but I have to be, or we have the trust. So I have to be able to call you out. And then I'm committed to you because if I trust you and I hold you accountable for everything, I can be committed to you. And then we're going to get the results that we want. It may
Yep.
be wins on the field, it may be grades in the classroom, it may be long, healthy relationships and marriages later down the line, or it may be healthy relationships with our kids as well.
Right.
5 dysfunctions of a team.
And the key thing about the results one is sometimes we'll look at our personal results and not worry about what the team results were.
Yeah.
And as long as our personal results hit what we were looking for, you kind of don't care about what happened with the rest of the team. That's a dysfunction. Your personal results is great, but if your personal results also leads to the results of the collective,
Right.
then that's something great, even greater, that you have to embrace and be accustomed to. And so like those five different levels are so important. And it was just a one-off book that I just I listened to different books from Belichick, from Saban, Tony Dungy. I listened to theirs, and this one just popped up into you might like this, and on my Audible recommendations. I'm like, all right, it was a short listen, only a 3 hour listen. Like, all
Right.
right, I can knock this out, and
A
it was
week.
powerful.
Oh,
Yeah, it
beautiful. I can
was
go,
powerful.
I'm back and forth. I'm going to knock this out in 3 days.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was a great book, and I think I'm starting to tell it to my assistant coaches as well, the different levels of it, and I break down different points of it with my players as well.
Hmm.
And so right now we're pushing past the trust and moving into that next level
Yeah.
there of um conflict. and we're
Powerful stuff.
pushing into the commitment spot.
Well, Coach, I cannot thank you enough for your time. Thanks for watching this episode of Film2Field Case Studies. If you found value in today's conversation, a summary can be found in the show notes. Subscribe and share it with another athlete or coach, and we'll see you in the next case.